us against them. It doesn't matter who them are. It can be me against you. But at the same time, we get so caught up in that what we do is we're not able to minister anymore because we have feelings toward the other person.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it hatred.
Right.
But we really just don't care. You know, I mean that's sad to say, but we get to that point. That
he called it demonic. He said last year it was black versus white. This year it's vaccinated versus non-vaccinated. And he just began to talk about the division that's just being created.
We've got to come together as Christians. That I can't say that I can connect with the numbers on the 1 and 5 as far as seeing around Greenwood, but I can definitely connect here in our church in 1 and 3.
Yeah,
we're probably a third off of ourselves.
Yeah,
you know, I don't know exactly the numbers as far as before or whatever, but we may be a third of the people off here.
But I haven't been in that kind of anointed preaching. You know what I'm saying? And maybe it was just where I was at that moment.
Right.
But I haven't, where God just, you've been in those services where you can't move.
Right.
This is what you need to hear.
Right.
This is for you, kind of what God was telling me.
We definitely need the whole armor of God. There is no doubt about it. It's almost like we're comfortable with doing a partial armor of God.
Yeah.
And that's it's bad. It's bad for Christianity in that situation. She'll let you get up and share a little bit more. Gave you a few more minutes, and you could have did a good lesson off of that.
Well, I'll send it to you. You might can grab it.
I wish you had told me, you wanted to do that this
morning
and did a little preparation. I know you're already prepared and you've got that, but that's huge, and that's a message that we all need to hear every week. I mean, it's sort of like the guy. They hired the preacher and he preached the same message and he preached the same message and he preached the same message and said, well, when you get that one, I'll move on to another one.
But he took be strong, and he talked about what be strong meant. He said, it ain't this. And he just really started talking about being strong in the spirit. Ooh. And then he began to talk about putting on the whole armor, sliding in. It was just we think of like, no. And it'll grab you. It'll really grab you about, wow, I never thought about what putting on the armor of God. It's a new depth. It truly is.
Let me ask you this: would it, not necessarily today, but would you be willing to put something together off of that and share it with us?
Give me about 6 weeks.
6 weeks. That's not very long. All right. I'm sticking with fruit of the Spirit. I'm not doing it in the order that you think I should do it in. I know you're supposed to start off with, love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and, gentleness and self-control. But I started last week a little bit on the sort of the gentleness, meekness. And this week I want to do self-control. I can tell you right now, we're not going to make it this week. It's 10:05. But I want to talk to you for a few minutes, but I just sort of read Galatians 5:22-23 just then, just not without really reading the whole thing. I want to ask you some questions, though. There was a president. This president grew somewhat overweight. One day, his wife challenged him with a blunt assertion. She said, "You can't run the country if you can't run yourself."
Yeah.
Respecting his wife's observation, the president lost 23 pounds. That was Lyndon Johnson. You may not remember a whole lot about his presidency. Wouldn't remember really some of it because you weren't alive, but or barely alive.
He was after JFK, right? JFK. He stepped in. Okay.
Yeah. I want to ask you this. Who said the following? I'm going to read a statement. He said, with all, this is a president, okay, in our lifetime, okay? Not when you were 3 years old. With all the power that a president has, the most important thing to bear in mind is this: you must not give power to a man unless, above everything else, he has character. Character is the most important qualification the President of the United States can have. Who do y'all think said that? You know, I'm sort of leaning on the bad side of this, but who do you think said that?
I know about that.
I hope it wasn't Bill Clinton, but anyway.
No, it wasn't Bill Clinton.
Hey, the Bushes?
No.
No?
All right.
This was made the comment 10 years before this president resigned the presidency to avoid being impeached.
No way.
Richard Nixon.
Wow.
Ask you this one.
How would they
This is the
care?
last one. This is another president. Undeniably, character does count for our nation. And this week, this was spoken by him on National Character Week. Okay, I will tell you that. Undeniably, character does count for our nation, and this week we celebrate the importance of character in our individual lives. Core ethical values of trustworthiness, fairness, responsibility, caring, respect, and citizenship form the foundation of our democracy, our economy, and our society. Who do you think said that?
Trump.
Any others?
Jimmy Carter?
Let me tell you this, you made the comment a minute ago.
Bush, one of the Bushes?
No.
Clinton?
Bill Clinton
Bless.
made that comment 2 months
Before?
the scandal broke.
Wow.
I'm not trying to put these presidents down. I'm not trying to do that. I'm taking you back to some of those key moments. Not because these two men were evil or because they were victims of right-wing or left-wing conspiracies. I'm not getting into all that. They were victims of something much more serious, and that was tragic lapses in character.
Yeah.
They had a problem. I want to talk to you today about self-control. The fruit of the Spirit is self-control. Now that sounds like whenever you start talking about self-control, we shouldn't be too hard on these presidents for their lack of self-control at one time or another, I guess. But self-control is the one fruit of the Spirit we all struggle with because we either resist saying no to ourselves or saying yes to what we know should be done. Now, what is self-control? Self-control is translated in the King James Version as temperance. And it comes from the Greek word enkratia. May not be pronounced right. Maybe enkratia, I don't know. But it means strong, possessing mastery, or master of self. Now, if you go to Paul, the self-control is illustrated by the athlete that is diligently practicing his or her sport and working their body into shape. They want to be their very best. The athlete wants to have strength of body and emotion to enable them to perform at their very best, to have the ability. We watched the Olympics not too long ago, and these athletes, they train. Paul uses this illustration in 1 Corinthians 9. But one of the things I want to mention to you, and I have made this comment, that we can't do these things through self-help. These are fruit of the Spirit. And it's the fruit of the Spirit, not the fruit of the saints. So I just want you to know you can't do these things on your own. They're characteristics that develop by God's Spirit living in us. And they are not acquired through self-help. Self-control is not an inner strength or mastery of self. Self-control is the strength of the Spirit working in and through our lives. And we need to remember that. Practically speaking, though, self-control is the ability to say no to ourselves and yes to what should be done. if you think about it, when do we lack control? It's when we don't want to say no to pleasure, or when we fail to say yes. Sometimes we procrastinate. I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes I procrastinate. Lisa, don't be looking like that. Sometimes you put off doing the right thing. In other words, we lack control when pleasure and comfort is our primary motivator. They a lot of times are. You know, you'd rather sit in that chair and relax and watch that TV show. For me, it's going out and cutting grass and weed eating and fixing the camper and fixing the boat and working on the... there's too many things at my house. I just need to say working around the house.
I got a list going.
But with self-control, we have the strength of the Spirit to say no to our selfish desires and yes to doing what is right. I told Lisa yesterday, I worked yesterday around the house, and I had baseball practice, and I got up yesterday morning, and I was lazy up until baseball practice at 10 o'clock. But told her, I said, I should have went and done some of these things before baseball practice happened. See, that was I said no. You know, I was lazy. You know, I went ahead and I said yes to being lazy. I told her today, I said, I'm not going to take a nap today. Every Sunday afternoon, pretty well, just about every Sunday afternoon, I take a nap. Not necessarily a long nap, but it's the only day in the week that I do this. I get up early on Sunday morning and I feel drained by the time I leave church. I mean, I know that you say this shouldn't drain you, and I guess it doesn't, but I take a nap. I told her, I said, I'm not going to take a nap today. I'm going to do something. And I was thinking earlier, I said, you know, maybe I'll get out and ride my bicycle today. I need to get some exercise. I need to do these things. You know, we'll see how that goes. Failure to control ourselves, a lack of temperance or restraint leads to all kind of problems and difficulties. I don't know about for you, but it does. Who hasn't lived to regret indulging our desires and doing the wrong thing at the wrong time? Sometimes you do. I'm obese because of that. That is my thing. I mean, I have eaten the wrong thing for years. I've had a heart attack. I've had problems. I've indulged in things that I shouldn't have as far as food. But Abraham and Sarah, anybody ever heard of them? In the Bible, they had a problem with self-control too. And he was a good man. I mean, he's listed in the Hall of Faith. God promised that they would have a son. Now, you remember the story. But the time just kept passing along, and it kept going along, and they said, well, you know, hey, this is moving along a little too fast. We're getting old here. We need to make some matters. We'd take some matters into our own hand. And they took matters into their own hand, and Sarah's desire to have a child caused her to devise a plan, and you know, her thoughts was, if God won't let Abraham have a son through me, then let's have a child through my servant Hagar. Sarah presented the idea to Abraham, and he didn't have the self-control to say, no, we should do the right thing here. And wait on God, because God is going to take care of us. That's going to be the child that he has promised. But instead, Abraham says, hey, let's do this. As a result, there is a sibling rivalry developed between Ishmael and God's child of promise, Isaac, that was spilled over into a continuing struggle that is still going on in the Middle East today. I don't think that all Arabs come from Ishmael, but there's a good many of them that come from that line. Now, some of them actually come off of Isaac's line somewhere down the way, and it sort of broke off a little bit there with another one. But something that's going on for thousands of years because of a decision they made. And I guess that's what I want you to look at this morning is look at the fact of the things that you do have consequences, or they have positive values that can go the same way. You know, you sit there and you do something and you minister to someone, and you sit there and you look at it and you say, well, that really didn't do that much. And I've told the story before about Billy Graham. If you go way back, how someone was saved, and it just kept developing along. And then in a revival service, this happened, and then next thing you know, you've got Billy Graham that reaches millions. Can you say that your influence doesn't have that kind of thing? You don't know what it's going to have. One small deed that you do could take and change millions of lives. I still have people come up to me now. I've been teaching for a long time, probably too long. And I still have people come up to me and still call me their Sunday school teacher. They may not be at church here. And you know, I've never been one to have a problem. I love it when people leave my class and they go teach somewhere else, or they teach another class. I love it when that happens. I feel like that's part of what needs to happen, is that people go out and they expand your ministry. And each one of these that is somewhere else or doing something else or is teaching or preaching or whatever, I look at it in a small way like, okay, I'm a little bit of a part of that. We need to be cautious of not doing the things we do. Not many of us are going to find ourselves facing that magnitude of difficulty and hardship as a result of our lack of self-control, but we do manage to create lots of problems for ourselves. Wow, 10:18. Lots of problems for ourselves. If we could learn self-control, to have an inner strength, a master of self, a strength of the Spirit to say no to ourselves and yes to what we should have done, then we wouldn't have as many self-inflicted problems in our lives. I know whenever you think along those lines that self-control needs to be developed within our lives. The next thing I was going to get into, and it's 10:18, so we're not going to do it, is I was going to get into 3 keys to having self-control. So we're going to leave that off. I'm going to pray for you and let you go. Father, we love you. We thank you. We thank you for this group that is here today. Lord, I just ask that you would minister to us as we leave from here, that you would help us to allow your Spirit to come out in us in the form of self-control. I know that we need to have other fruits that will come in our lives as well, but Lord, I just ask that you would help us today to be able to work on the self-control. Not that we would try to do it by self-help, but that we would allow your Spirit to work in us and we would give him freedom to be able to help us with this. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Thank you for coming to Sunday school today. In no way